History is full of unanswered questions. Some questions, however, are more troubling than others. One such question is whether institutions like the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England played a role in funding Adolf Hitler. The idea that these institutions might have supported the rise of Nazi Germany is deeply unsettling. It raises concerns about the role of finance and international relations in the events leading up to World War II. This question has been the subject of much debate and controversy. Some historians and researchers argue that there is compelling evidence to support the claims of financial ties between Western institutions and the Nazi regime. Others, however, dismiss these claims as conspiracy theories. They argue that there is no credible evidence to suggest that the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England knowingly funded Hitler. The claims often center around the idea that certain powerful individuals and financial institutions in the United States and Great Britain saw Hitler as a way to advance their own economic interests. They believed that by supporting him financially, they could influence his policies and benefit from German rearmament. These claims also allege that these institutions may have provided loans or other forms of financial assistance to the Nazi government, either directly or indirectly. It is important to approach this topic with a critical and discerning mind. We must carefully examine the available evidence and consider the arguments from all sides. By doing so, we can hope to gain a better understanding of this complex and controversial issue. To understand the claims about financial ties to Hitler, we need to look back at the early 20th century. Europe was in turmoil after World War I. Germany faced economic devastation and political instability. The Treaty of Versailles, which officially ended the war, imposed harsh reparations on Germany. This fueled resentment and economic hardship. Germany's economy was crippled by hyperinflation and unemployment. The German people were desperate for a solution and a strong leader. It was in this climate of despair that Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to prominence. Hitler promised to restore Germany to its former glory. He appealed to nationalist sentiment and blamed the Jews and other minority groups for Germany's problems. The global economy was also in turmoil during this period. The 1929 Wall Street crash triggered the Great Depression, a worldwide economic downturn. This had a devastating impact on Germany, which was already struggling to recover from World War I. The economic crisis further strengthened Hitler's position and made it easier for him to gain support. It was within this context of economic and political chaos that the alleged financial ties between Western institutions and the Nazi regime are said to have taken place. Some argue that the instability in Germany and the global economic crisis created an environment where such deals could be made, away from public scrutiny and accountability. The claims about the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England funding Hitler are complex and often shrouded in speculation. However, they generally revolve around a few key allegations. One central claim is that Wall Street banks, some of which had ties to the Federal Reserve, provided loans to Germany in the 1920s and early 1930s. These loans, critics argue, helped to prop up the German economy and allowed Hitler to rebuild Germany's military in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. Some point to the Dawes Plan of 1924 and the Young Plan of 1929 as examples. These plans, which involved American banks, were designed to help Germany manage its war debt repayments. Critics argue that these plans indirectly aided Hitler's rise. Another claim focuses on the role of Hjalmar Schacht, who served as president of the Reichsbank, Germany's central bank during the Nazi regime. Some researchers allege that Schacht had close ties to Wall Street financiers and that these connections facilitated financial transactions that benefited the Nazi government. These claims often portray a network of powerful individuals operating behind the scenes, using their influence and financial resources to advance their own agendas. They suggest that these individuals were motivated by greed, anti-Semitism, or a desire to see Germany become a powerful force in Europe once again. While the claims of financial ties between the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, and the Nazi regime are intriguing, it's crucial to acknowledge that they are highly contested. Historians and researchers have presented a range of perspectives on this issue, and there is no clear consensus. Critics of these claims often argue that they lack sufficient evidence. They point out that while there were indeed financial transactions between Western institutions and Germany during the 1920s and 1930s, these transactions were not necessarily intended to support Hitler or the Nazi Party. They argue that these transactions were part of normal international finance and trade, and that any benefit to the Nazi regime was unintentional and indirect. Moreover, they emphasized that many individuals and institutions in the United States and Great Britain were deeply opposed to Hitler and Nazism. They argue that it is implausible to suggest that these countries would have knowingly supported such a regime. The debate over whether the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England funded Hitler is complex and likely to continue for years to come. It highlights the importance of critical thinking, thorough research, and a willingness to consider different perspectives when examining historical events, especially those as sensitive and consequential as the rise of Nazi Germany.